Good evening, everybody. My name is Tumelo Mosaka, and I'm the Mellon Arts Project Director with the African American and African Diaspora Studies Department at Columbia University. The Mellon Arts Project is a multi-year initiative designed to sustain and celebrate the centrality of Black arts within the African American and African Diaspora Studies Department and its broader intellectual community. The Artist Residence Program, of which we are today celebrating, is one of the many programs we are presenting that looks at engaging both the creative and intellectual scope of the artist's production. Previous recipients of this Artist in Residence Fellowship have been artists such as Jason Moran, Micheline Thomas, and currently Nora Chipaumire. Our guest tonight, Nora Chipaumire, is a choreographer and performer born in what was then known as Rhodesia under the British rule and today called Zimbabwe. Her work investigates how Black bodies create new imaginations from current circumstances. A four-time Bessie Award winner and recipient of the following awards: Trisha McKenzie Memorial Award, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation Award, the Guggenheim Fellowship, the Doris Duke Artist Award, and the Princeton Harder Fellowship are among the many awards that Nora has received. Currently, she is the Doris Duke Fellow, a researcher and resident at NYU Future Imagination Collaboratory, and is the Mellon Arts in Residence at Columbia University. She's joined tonight by several very amazing thinkers and creators, and the conversation is going to be moderated by Jay Pather, who is also a choreographer and a multimedia artist, curator, writer, and professor at the University of Cape Town, where he directs the Institute for Creative Arts. He has collaborated with Nora on numerous occasions and has continued to be a critical voice in the cultural landscape and in South Africa. I won't go into introducing the panelists tonight, but we'll hand over to Jay to lead us through the conversation. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Tumelo, and good evening, everyone. It is such a privilege to moderate this Future of Revolution panel, as it references Nora Chipaumire's extensive practice, which in and of itself is a veritable archive of embodied and emboldened revolutionary research, a creator and a thinker of past, present, and future as coexistent and crucial. Most revolutions on the African continent have been accompanied in no small measure by performance from the toi-toi, rhythmically punctuated by chants, call and response in the face of army trucks and rifles, present in protest marches from Algeria to South Africa, to full-length plays such as Ngugi wa Thiong's Trial of Dedan Kimati, to the inherent therapeutic markers of ritual and ceremony across the continent. Revolution, though, like coloniality, is not an event marked by a start and end date, an event that spans a neat book-ended set of dates. As practices, as precarities on the continent and the diaspora increase and persist, Nora Chipaumire, and I quote, aims to reclaim the visionary spirit responsible for the liberation of Africa by mobilizing strategies that inspired social protest. A conversation then about African futures in the age of modern technology and science. So navigating the fiery, sometimes slippery, most times generative and nourishing relationship between performance practice and revolution, this conversation begins with responses by three of Chipaumire's productions by the three esteemed panelists. This will be followed by Nora's response to their observations and provocations, and then followed by a discussion that may or may not include a range of texts that Nora has introduced to augment the quest and question of revolution. During the program, colleagues, friends, we urge you to post your questions on chat, as we may not have time for a formal Q&A, and they will be taken up by Nora and the panelists. So I take great pleasure then in introducing the three panelists. Nontsikelelo Mutiti is a Zimbabwean-born visual artist and educator, invested in elevating the work and practices of Black people's past, present, and future through a conceptual approach to design, publishing, archiving practices, and institution building. Mutiti is the Director of Graduate Studies for Graphic Design at Yale School of Art. Welcome, Nancy. I think we will see you in a little bit. Erin Washington is a creative scholar and waymaker from Montgomery. Erin has been a digital and creative producer at the Public Theatre, amongst several others, as Associate Artistic Director at the American Conservatory Theatre, and is now an adjunct in the School of the Arts at Columbia University. Independent of institutions, Erin has also started Soul Productions, a company that crafts new approaches to music and theatre, and recently a second arts collective, Soul Center, as well as co-creating two legacy-based organizations, the Clark Street Fund and Fresh Greens Market, which centers art, food sovereignty, and technology. Thank you for joining us, Erin. And finally, Dana Whabira is an artist, architect, and cultural facilitator who lives and works in Harare. She employs a research-focused, context-driven experimental practice concerned with space, cartography, and giving shape or form to critical understandings of how we can live together. She's the founder of Njelele Art Station, an independent space that focuses on the generation of projects through research, experimentation, and exchange. Welcome. But we begin with Nora. To help us think through some of the opening questions, what kind of ritual, art, or aesthetic is restorative after catastrophic violence? What collective efforts can be implemented to transform society? And while looking at African revolutions has brought hope for change, what adaptations and impacts exist that feed the desire to reshape African futures? Nora, over to you.
Okay, well, I thank you, everyone, and hello, world. Forgive me if I circle all over the place, but hopefully we find a way to think together towards something. I don't know if I can completely hold and contain the questions that are so deep that Jay lays out right away. But perhaps I could humbly start by just giving a brief sketch of what work means to me, the work that I do, what it means to me, starting with what seems to me to be the birth of my own creative practice, which was radio broadcasting. I was a very young radio broadcaster, and in many ways, foregrounding the voice and disappearing the body was a beginning that in some ways was kind of liberating. If you can imagine that at this point in my practice, the body is front and center. But the question of where the voice sits in the spectrum is very important to me, and was where I started, and developed into a desire to marry some imaginations from some iconic human beings, such as Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee. For me, the revolution that was sparked by the actual revolution in Zimbabwe had to do with grace, motion, and dignity. And this two humans, Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee, sort of captured for me what was movement, what was grace, and what is dignity, and continue to spark my imagination, I continue to always reach back to these gestures and wonder if I can match their just enormous presence and enormous ability to displace weight. In many ways, work has then become, for me, this meeting, an urgency to meet the voice with the body, to marry voice with body, with matter. The work, the revolutionary work, has to do with a search for this voice and body in spaces of volume and frequencies, on a daily basis, monthly, yearly, life. Every day is an opportunity to discover where we can catch ourselves inside the volume of Blackness, inside the volume of Black African life, inside the frequencies of life itself. The work is as a movement, the grace given, directed, dictated to by Muhammad Ali, the refusal of both Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee, as a movement, thinking in these variables of volumes, of verticals, what is horizontal, what is spiral, what is front, what is back, what is up, what is down, what is audible, what is inaudible, what is spirit, what is flesh, what is born, what is blood. Work as a preoccupation as well with my chip on the shoulder, a deficit of knowledge, a deficit of knowledge. That's my chip on the shoulder. Given the geographies, which are, the geographies of Southern Africa, given the histories, given the legacies of both these histories and the cultural inheritances, which we won't belabor by talking about, because obviously it is obvious age, race, gender, all affect, come in implied in the preoccupation and the knowledge deficit. And the work also then becomes a way to know the world, to know myself, the work as a science of how do we displace weight, how do we displace matter. And I hesitate always to talk about dance or choreography because I wonder just how genuine that language is for me, or how honest it is for me. So therefore I talk about displacement of weight, a negotiation with gravity, a daring to confront and wrestle with time, which is therefore also space and speed or effort. And in these things, I think is the quest to acquire some of the revolutionary gesture, actual physical revolution, as well as the revolution of just the imagination. The work for me has unfolded over the years from being a monologue, alone, work as a solo, working alone, facing strangers, the solo works, or now as unfolding as group works, working within multiplicities with others, and the joy and the dangers of being inside of a team, or the pleasures of being inside of a team. And as I say, work now is thinking with others. And finally, I would like to say that work remains a constant search for dignity, which I guess for me is the revolution. Maybe I will stop there.
Don't stop. Thank you. No,
For now.
Really extraordinary. Thank you. We're going to start with Nontsikelelo. Nonsi, come on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jay and Nora and Tumelo and the whole community at Columbia for welcoming me today. And I'm so excited to be in conversation with everyone. Nora just spoke about ideas around dignity, and I was quite struck in the piece that I watched, Portrait of Myself as My Father, which is actually quite interesting to watch it as a video recording, and having been in the auditorium for one of the performances years ago, seeing the different camera angles and this idea of the insider, the performer, and the viewer, and how we have all these different sight lines, and how perception is so important in this piece, the idea of light and shadow, and where we're looking and what we're looking at and what catches your eye. There's so much to see in the piece. But I was really drawn to a moment in the work, and maybe we can play the video as I talk. A moment in the work where we are confronted with a figure in the ring, tethered by another. And there's always this call and response between the two, and the negotiation. Is this a ringmaster? Is this a collaborator? Is this a handler of sorts? And is this a beast in the ring? Is this someone that is leading the other? All of these questions come to play. But still, we're in the boxing ring, and we have this light. And whilst when I was watching the piece, there is a moment here, going back to the idea of dignity, where Nora is asking, is saying audibly, the character that Nora is embodying at that moment is asking, maybe to the audience, maybe to herself, maybe to the figure in the ring, how does one become a Black man? Or how does one become a man? How does one become a Black man? How does one become a Black African man? And there's steps to this. There's 10 steps that are laid out by the figure that is holding this lead that's attached to the other. One of the steps says, act like you know everybody. And I was so struck by that. You know, I'm from Zimbabwe, and there is a phenomena where when we greet each other, when we're out in the public, anyone that you knew from before, you have an acknowledged connection with them. And there's something about our culture which acknowledges all of the relationships as important. You wake up in the morning, you greet someone, you say, Mangwanani Mamuka, say, good morning, how did you wake up? And then the other person says, Ndamuka or Tamuka, Kanama Muka wo. We always acknowledge the other. So think about this way that the figure who is tethered, who is holding the lead, is speaking out to the crowd in this way, as if greeting, as if acknowledging everyone. And this act of greeting is also acknowledges that you are being seen as much as you are seeing other people. So community building being kind of tied to the recognition of each other. And the figure holding the tether continues to talk about Blackness and Black life. And there's these statements that come out about being woke, you know, being awake, being woke, this idea of these mantras, Black lives have always mattered. Am I a man? You know, I'm a Black man. And I was thinking about this idea of acknowledging one another, needing one another in cases of uprising and revolution or resistance, and moments where we need to be resilient but also this idea of kind of posturing and thinking about one's wokeness and their position in relationship to the rest of the community, and that kind of also being a competition, thinking again about the boxing ring, this stage that we have, or that the way the stage is set up makes me think about the idea of boxing ring and competition, the idea of fighting, struggle, and the possibility of a champion and a prize. But there's also at the moment where the figure is like performing this moment of greeting and gesturing to all of these people, many people. There's many languages that are being used, and the figures are exchanging words or performing monologues that are sometimes in English, but often in other languages, and other times gestural enunciations. And I was thinking about this idea of gesture and language, and something that I had read by Jamaica Kincaid, where she's narrating in a book, A Small Place, a moment sitting at a dinner table with other people talking about colonialism and the monarchy in Britain, and they get to the point of discussing language, and then she writes, the language I speak is the language of the enemy, and can only say things in the according to the enemy's point of view, just like to paraphrase. And so I was thinking about this these moments of waking up and greeting people and being seen, but also other moments of thinking through erasure of language and what that means for a community like ours in Zimbabwe, where English is so highlighted, so much in the forefront, is our kind of language of business. We conduct school and news and everything in English, and what that means, and the struggle one has to articulate oneself, and the effort one has to articulate oneself, and the competition that there is within communities to sound eloquent, and to or when people are kind of looked down on because of different kinds of articulation or perceptions of language proficiency, but that there's a flip side for those that have not learned their indigenous languages or their father tongues. I'm one of those who is not proficient in Shona, and thinking about the kind of struggle that I have to articulate my identity whilst speaking English as a first language of some kind. And then going, to writers that Nora had mentioned, Dambudzo Marechera, who writes, whose texts are in English, but in
Sorry, Nancy, I'm going to give you a minute. Sorry about that.
No problem. I'm getting in here. Whose work is extremely syncopated, very, very forceful, really agitating, and went through a lot of censorship because the people thought that the censorship board felt it was unpalatable. He's writing at a time in 1980 where Zimbabwe has just become independent, and is using this forceful gestural language to think about the struggle, to think about the formation of a new identity and what has been defeated, and acknowledging how using English, feeling like he needs to use English, working within particular systems, puts him at this constant state of competition, defeat, exhilaration, exhaustion with himself and with others. I think I can stop there and maybe bring some other thoughts into play later on.
Oh, I feel terrible to have cut you there because
it
was such a mountain,
a
mountain you began to scale. It was just wonderful. Thank you so much, Nancy, and I'm really apologize.
Oh no, you're totally fine.
Hopefully we'll get back to it in the discussion, and maybe schedule a 5-hour conversation. Thank you, Erin. Erin Washington. Hey.
Blessings, blessings. I advocate for a 3-day conference of Nora's work. I say.
It's 7 semesters or something.
Exactly. It's such an honor to be here. Such a pleasure to be here with so many amazing, beautiful Black African folk. If all else fails, punk it out. In Nora's punk, the past, present, future is of the current moment. The deep resonances of colonialism, the state, enslavement, the man are referenced, but not the key modality in this vibrantly sanctified, precious, not precious world of the beingness of the future of African folk. As I watched this piece, my soul felt on fire, my spirit was free. The words and images of so many African folk came into my imaginary, and I felt even more connected to their struggles to free, to uncapture the minds and hearts of African folk all around the world, from Steve Biko and his insistence on Black self-sustainability, to Assata Shakur and her example of the literal power of community and her will to have freed herself from the corporal system, to Erica Huggins, who transformed her time in solitary isolation into a practice of soothing the self through yoga, to Adrienne Kennedy, who dreamed a world in Funny House of a Negro, where a Black woman got the opportunity to express her insanity freely, to Sandra Washington, my mother, who helped to reshape the ways we view the future of Alabama politics by being one of the first Black staff members for Governor George Wallace. Nora's piece allows for the many parts of Black folk, past, present, and future to be, never settled into together, but reimagined parts to make a whole that is multiple entities navigating space in their own way while being aware of the self next to them. Nora creates an environment that the African spiritual future is our ability to have the courage to fuck the past, as she beautifully screams in this piece, and be enough to breathe new life into our future selves. You can start to play the clip for me. Nora begins this piece alongside an MC, griot, hype man that introduces us to the world of punk and also sets norms of call and response, clapping, dancing, no fourth wall, which is imaginary anyway. Therefore, shifting the concept of performer and audience, resetting the potential for improvisation and creative freedom, which in 2022, due to this capitalist system that entertainment has become, is a rare occurrence. As Mississippi ancestor, actress, and activist Bia Richards would say, as Black folk, we are more than performers here to do a show for the enjoyment of an audience. We are being, lacking no essential characteristics, perfect, may not yet be realized, but we're perfect. And remembering North Carolina ancestral elder Nina Simone, who would sit with her back turned to the audience and play piano, Nora's punk is a meditation on beingness that is totally lived and breathed in every single moment for herself, from her body, mind, spirit, and a group of humans and ancestral folk alike get the opportunity to witness her new state of being. Nora is creating in the divine dark, a fugitive space where only a certain few will enter with the openness to be present inside. In Nora's piece, it begins with an introduction. This is an introduction, ladies and gentlemen, introducing an introduction from somewhere, anywhere in Africa. This is an introduction, introducing an introduction, and nothing is in it. Hearing for me and nothing is in it was a moment that Nora is at the mic, legs spread, chest out, Adidas on, the sonic sounds of reggae, punk, blues playing in the background, every articulation connected to points to the music that draws you closer into the world of punk. Nora is challenging the systems of this world and also the world of performance. There is nothing to an introduction. It is a mechanic, nonsensical act of empire that is framed to make the illegible legible. It also allows for power to be deemed and understood in space. On the other hand, an introduction in the Black world is a way to call out where you're from, to show pride, to claim, to let folks know who and whose you are so as to be respected, to set roots in a space, even if the space you set roots in doesn't want you. Nora breaks through these tensions as she, through this piece, continues to reintroduce cycles of moments that deal with an encounter of her walking down the street, minding her business, and she says, hearing the voice say, go back Africa, and takes that as an invitation to do just that. Watch me go back Africa. This moment happens over and over again in many forms and ways, from shifts in music to shift in tone, from New York, London Bridge is falling down to Jesus died on the cross for your sins, to the call and response of forceful clapping, to the shaking off of the body to release any unneeded energies, to back and forth in the audience, back to the stage, to the exhaustion of having to tell the same story over and over and over again on the floor, worn but grateful in the struggle for freedom, to this moment of reality. As Nora beautifully states, go back, Africa. I say, yeah, you're right, because I'm an African, a world-class African, an African nigga. Watch me, watch me, watch me go back to Africa. And when I get there, you know what I gotta do? I'm gonna fuck with the past. I'm gonna fuck even harder with the present, and watch me go in the future. Watch me. And if all of that fails, I'm gonna voodoo it out. If everything else fails, punk it out. And finishing out, you know, Nora steps back to Africa, reminiscent of Harriet stepping over 19 trips from the south to the north. Nora steps over and over, feet pressing, knees up, piercing the time-space continuum to go back, to not stay in the confines of an oppressive past, present, future. Nora steps through the ridicule, shame, hurt, defeat, grief, anger that so many of us hold, and moves through to a punk possibility of Black folk, African folk, to even in a performance believe we could go back. And the complexities are present. Nora still walks. She still says she's gonna go back to leave. And even for folks that have immigrated from the African space to other parts of the world, what does it mean to not be present in the African space? To be African outside of Africa, to be in another country, but allow the spirit to go back, allow the spirit to long back. I also linger with the thought that Nora is inviting us to discover a way of going back that is not reminiscent of the romanticized Black nationhood building, but back is fucking the past, remixing the past. Back is fucking the present, reorienting and being aware of how we currently maneuver these systems we encounter. And back to the future is to be African of this world, rooted in the many parts of the self, carrying each piece boldly through this life and grounded in the multitude of spiritual systems, wherever we decide to land, wherever we land, with a renewed sense of understanding of our family and chosen kin. Go back, Africa is a reclamation of self, the self that can imagine a past, present, future where African folk, Black folk all over this world are free, just because we said so, just because Nora said so, and a shift in belief from struggling to prove we should be free, to then pressing into the fact that we are free and taking our days as walking meditations of that beloved fact, which to others may be a fantasy, but our story nonetheless. As Nora tells us, watch me, go back, Africa. Thank you so much, Nora, for your work.
Thank you, Erin. It was absolutely extraordinary. Thank you so much. Oh, okay, Dana, over to you.
Right. I watched Not Waiting Picasso Dance whilst I was reading Nehanda by Yvonne Vera. And I'd like to share a passage that I feel resonates strongly with this work. In the future, the whirling center of the wind, which is also herself, has collapsed, but that is only the beginning of another dimension of time. The collapse of the wind, which is also her own death, is also part of the beginning, and from the spiraling center of the wind's superimposed circles, another wind rises, larger and stronger. Hope for the nation is born out of the intensity of newly created memory. The suffusing light dispels all uncertainty, and the young move out of the darkness of their trepidation into the glory of dawn. The trembling wind asserts its eternal fury, and it will not be dominated or destroyed. It walks in long, furious strides across the clearing and mocks those in its path with a nodding, fantastic head. From its consuming base, it digs the earth, which it sends speeding into the blinding air. It prepares its own path majestically, as though it has come from witnessing the birth of the earth. Its frantic arms wave in circular protective gestures. Those who see it coming into being understand its message with new light, and they are not afraid. The path has been cleared with wisdom. In the future, the valley will once again regain its color and its growth. It will bear new lives which will be born out of the old. There will be a growth there among the swinging branches, among the sheltering leaves. Her death, which is also birth, will weigh on those lives remaining to be lived. In the valley where they have prayed all night for rain is heard the beginning of a new language and a new speech. The water rises to their knees, and they dare not move. For many days the water comes to them, and the river is full of sound and echoes with resonances of eternal mysteries. From the rich green treetops, brightly colored birds fly, and the young boys follow them into openings on tree trunks where they find honey, which they share with the birds. The elders stay along the banks of the river, where they have discovered new lives. They have found themselves in the future, which they thought they had lost. At the bank of the flowing river, where life grows, they bury the dead part of themselves. The energy that propels the whirling wind rises from a shaft in its belly, which is the hungering center into which it swallows all obstacles in its path. It sighs with impatient commands, and the birds fly out of the trees bearing signs that send new hope to the ground. It is always in a state of creation, of being born. The legend-creating wind gives new tongues with which to praise it, and new languages with which to cross the boundaries of time. Out of it evolves new patterns of growth and new purposes with which to greet the waking day. Each seeks lightness and freedom, guided by the recollection of the death-defying mother of dreams. From dreams come life and growth. Old men borrow lives from the branches of trees until they can pass on to the unborn the fantastic images they have witnessed. In cheerful voices, the women celebrate their shelter-giving selves and see new existences come out of the dreaming air. They too are in a state of birth and growth and unstoppable exaltation. After the agonizing birth they have witnessed, they rise from the tattered mat and learn to walk. Their footsteps bear signs of a majestic language that will lead them safely into the future. They clap their hands and create new songs to help clear the path into new lives. When they do not sing, their lips part and wait. The air waits to be transformed into the ecstasy of their release. The women see images of themselves reflected in the motionless lake in the sky. With words compelling them through the intersection of time, they recognize their future selves. The women welcome the message of their inheritance, and they will not forget. The time of fading truths is gone. I feel the two works, in poetry and in motion, speak to genealogies of spirit in liberation. Through the authors of the two works, both the work of Nora and Germaine Akogny and Vera's Nehanda, I feel that we can listen to ancestors transmitting information from an unknown point in time, which has the ability to transcend the limits of today's reality and circumvent dominant ideologies. We can hear women who produced and continue generative processes of making place, space, and art that center wholeness, oneness, and pleasure, connecting people to their inner worlds connecting people to the joy of their inner worlds, universes in symbiosis with others, and to nature. Nehanda, Vera, Chipaumire, Akogni. And if we may extend this process to draw inspiration from the wisdom, words, and work of Joyce Genje Makwenda, Nkiru Nzwegu, Sylvia Tamale, Audre Lorde, Adrienne Mary Brown, amongst, many, many others. We can form a meditation on illuminating the liberatory nature and counter-hegemonic potential of women-centered knowledge and practices, on creating new knowledge with the ancient interacting with contemporaneity, on revisiting, remembering, and reshaping histories, on reclaiming our inheritances, and yes, our dancing, our drumming, our clapping, our ululating, our loving, our work, our lives, on beautiful forces, on reversing the disconnection of our natural relationship to ourselves, to another, to others, and to the earth, on moving between worlds, on the fluidity of identity, of gender, of geographies, of time, on orienting the body, rhythm, and movement in concert with others, on dreaming together, on shaping new formations, new languages, new sounds as modalities of freedom, on imagining our worlds otherwise, and on grace, motion, and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you. Revolution has never sounded more textured and full. Nora, I'm going to ask you for a 5-minute input, and then before we open it, because then we'll have only about 10 minutes for a discussion. So over to you.
It's overwhelming in a way to hear yourself back from in this way, or to be made to understand yourself through others in this way. So I want to say thank you, Nancy, thank you, Erin, thank you, Dana, for just taking so much time and wow, allowing me to understand what the work is doing, allowing me to understand the breadth of the search. Yeah, I am a little bit overwhelmed at the moment to kind of know what to say after after these 3 articulations of these 3 works, other than to say, wow, yeah, it just continues in me. There's a humility now that takes all the words out of my mouth, and I hope that perhaps is acceptable. Perhaps Jay, and then maybe perhaps somebody can take the time and use it in a useful way. I don't know what I can say without appearing like obtuse, really.
You won't sound ever obtuse, no, unless you deliberately want to. So I think I'm going to, if we can just circle to Nonsi, do you want to finish that thought, because you brought in the writers, which I think was a kind of an underbelly to this discussion, and a strong force in shaping the conversation. So I wonder whether you want to finish that thought, and then we can.
audio is good. I can just finish up maybe by thinking through Black sunlight and just the idea of the importance of the voice of the author. And also what the book has done in the space of Zimbabwe. A book is a fight, and a book has been a weapon and a tool that has really assaulted and controlled many people around the world, especially the Christian Bible, which is the book that was the tool that helped to produce a lot of cultural erosion, other kinds of modes of kind of codifying how people should move, how they should appear, what they should believe. Yeah, I just wanted to end off, with thinking through the importance of the voice of the author, the syncopation through which Marechera chooses to articulate himself, the insistence on being incoherent as a way to more fully express the violence that one has come to kind of desire to break out of particular structures, a space, trying to create a space of liberation, trying to point to moments of othering that happen within the piece, portrait of myself as my father. And I just also loved the moment in the work where the figure holding the tether is speaking and says, slow down, like you have the time, like you own time. In fact, you become time. And that the condition of Black individuals, the condition of the Black African at any given time is actually a barometer for telling the world where we are, where we've gotten to, and sort of listening to that condition, looking at that body, looking at those groups of people as a way to think about who we are, what history has done to us, what role we have to play in liberation, if that's a possibility at all.
Great, thank you. And Erin, I was just wondering whether we could pick up on you mentioned the breaking of the fourth wall and the complete deconstruction of performance as we know it in order to arrive at the space of truth, to arrive at the space of being and doing. And I think it's quite instructive around performance training as well, isn't it? About how the closer to the self one becomes, the revolution in forms is a natural result. It's not necessarily conscious that one is doing that. Do you want to speak a little bit more of that as a theater person yourself?
Yes, thank you so much. Nora, you the one. You are the one. I mean, so many. I mean, that's why I had to shout out so many ancestors when I saw you. I was like, oh my God. Also, it's Catherine Dunham too. I mean, it's the breaking of, it's the telling the truth in space, right? In these kind of theatrical spaces. We say in this proscenium space that there is a wall, and there's not, right? I feel like Nora breaks through to the truth. And in Punk, she stepped through, right? And I think that in 2023, in such a heightened capitalistic artistic space, it is a breath of fresh air to see and feel truth in a creative space. And so, that is a political act. As I mentioned, Nina Simone turning her back to the audience, Bia Richards speaking about being, because I think the deepest point for me of Nora's work is that Nora is being. She is not performing. She's really not dancing at all. So I love, Nora, you speaking about not really kind of thinking through the lens of choreography, but really thinking about displacing weight, which I would love to hear you talk more about. But Nora is displacing the concepts of what we view as a performer and an audience. And so I think empowering the performer in a way artistic industrial space does not. And so, I think that we can all learn from the ways that Nora takes up space and the ways that Nora then makes her industry shift in deep ways as well.
Going to respond to Nora? We put a question to Dana.
I'm sorry, Jay. Could you repeat?
No, do you want to respond, especially about the? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, the proscenium stage. Well, first of all, I did not come from dancing, so I didn't have all the kind of rules. I had not mastered any of the rules, and as soon as I began to kind of get a whiff of the frame and kind of the fascism that the frame holds, which reminded me very much of Rhodesia, which reminded me very much of some of the patriarchy, the culture from which I come from. I needed to just reject that and defy that, and think of how one could create space, be in space, even whilst one is being asked to be in these proscenium stages, but have this awareness that this is not for me. And so therefore, what is the work? What is the work? What is the body supposed to do in this four walls, which in many ways is kind of like a prison, So the defiance of the space is always an objective. How can I muddy this space? How can I destroy the sight lines? Meaning also, how can I destroy the expectation of what I'm going to do there with the others that are there corroborating the statement, that then the gang that shows up with me corroborates in destroying the expectation, and also in the end, I hope, creating another expectation, another pleasure. Yeah, so the weight of the canon that we are, as a colonized people, in some way supposed to know and hold up, to displace that weight. But I'm also conscious of body as matter, as weight, so that anytime you displace weight, this gesture is what the West can call dance, and I think that limits what the body is doing, that displacement is a thinking, is a writing, is a knowing, is a shifting of the environment, is a conversation not only with other bodies, but equally a conversation with trees, with the soil, with the air itself. And that displacement also then creates sound, because sound is, when the air moves and hits something, and then you have sound. So that bodies displacing are also creating sound, whether it's audible or inaudible. So yeah, I think of that as that displacement as a writing, as the refusal to acknowledge the canon and create new canons, while also pulling from a very rich cultural history, of all the personages and thinkers that you all put into the space, and asking them to walk with, think with, dream with us. Yeah, and making this moment, this present, this now, it this now is it, this now, this present, and not necessarily the future or the past, because both of those ideas are contained in the now, which is also the body, which is also this matter.
And we've got like basically 2 minutes, or maybe even over time. But I just wanted, because this just around even as instruction for art students, for performers, performance students, that gravitating towards oneself, that really is also it also defies notion of style, right? Because in all the works, because by bringing together Yvonne Vera, who in Neander, which Nora has just completed, and combining that with that film and referencing ancestors and intergenerational passing, is like a whole other area. And that Nora keeps touching these points, almost like an acupuncturist, without actually landing on these little, these mountains of style. Did you have something more to?
Yeah, so defying or kind of anti genre. There is so much work to do. Can the work done by all means possible, by any means possible, and so that the intelligences one gathers as one lives every day are not only about, oh, this is about the color of this paint, or this is about this sound, and maybe arriving at a place where all those things, whether it's color, it's sound, it's solidity or not, it's the same thing, just in a different manifestation. So perhaps that's a way that I would lean into trying to answer questions of style, or defying genre, or not having a genre, as I believe deeply. In fact, I'm convinced that color, that fabric, that sound, that it's all the same. It's all the same. It's just what kind of reading, how open is your heart, your head, to understanding that these materials are moving in certain frequencies and are occupying certain volumes, and which is why I really also like to constantly think about where we are occupying, where we are locating ourselves in frequency or in volume, whether it's size, or whether it's the verticality or the horizontality, and that obviously I'm also engaged in constant search, reading, and finding others who have thought profoundly, living or dead, other humans or other things. And so currently visiting Dambudzo Marechera, revisiting Dambudzo, who with each year I find another way to understand what he may have been trying to say, or trying to keep up with NoViolet Bulawayo,
Yes.
And the gestures of a younger Zimbabwean thinker, or whether it's thinking with Stephen Biko, or growing the bibliography that allows for an understanding of what Ruth First courageously on about, that ideas are powerful and are dangerous, and that ideas are the revolution, you know, and do shift everything. Yeah, that I try not to be involved with what the industry sort of prescribes, the kind of the extraction of the generosity, I guess, the generosity of the artists, of the thinkers, of humans. The generosity which comes off as labor is extracted and then packaged in certain ways, that is only understandable if you have some degree, you know, if you've only been through this the manipulations of a Western education. And so I like to reduce everything that Tumelo happily said about me to just say only that I am a product of those things that can't be really held in quantified in things that you say BA or MA or whatever. That really, for me, the search is to understand that color is holding a certain frequency in the same way that the river, you know, flows, and that all those things are have life itself.
Oh, I have the enviable. I don't even think one to end, but Tumelo, I think we are way over time, no? And we have to, or else we can take last comments from each panelist. Tumelo?
Yes, I think maybe we can get last comments, which would be
please.
fantastic. This has been really incredible.
Great. Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. So let's start with you, Nancy. You're muted, yeah. Thank you.
No, I mean, I'm so taken by everybody's responses, and also Nora, your reflections, and I keep thinking about these ideas of exhilaration and exhaustion in the piece that I watched, Portrait of My Father, and where that leaves us in terms of spaces of struggle or defeat and liberation. And it's so beautiful to see the clips of the other works and the poetry with the overlay of the reading that Dana shared, and thinking through the voice of another woman as well, Yvonne Whabira. And yeah, I'm processing and thinking, and just really grateful to have had this time with you all.
Thank you. And Erin?
It's such an honor and a blessing to be present, to be alive, to have breath in our bodies. Thank you so much, Nora, for your work. Thank you to all of the panelists. All of y'all rock. You know, I'm just holding with me, you know, as Nora said, if all else fails, you know, fill in the blank, to the thing that allows you to continue. So as Nora said, if all else fails, voodoo it out. If all else fails, punk it out. And I think it's a great charge to us in a time for us Black folk globally experiencing and continuing to experience this replication of a story. And I think that for me, I'm leaving inspired by the ways that Nora is not only disrupting space, but as you said, Nora, displacing space, which I will continue to hold with me in a deep way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin. Dana?
I thought I would just end with a quote by Dambudzo Marechera from Black Insider. thoughts that think in straight lines cannot see round corners.
Oh. Yes. Nora, final word?
Punk it out. Let's punk it out. Yeah, it's punk or die, really.
Thank you.
Or any other, dub it out, you know. Chimurenge it out. I'm really grateful. Such beautiful thinking, and again, I'm also processing. It's very emotional for me to see the work. You know, even without the sound, as there's so much relationship, so much text between these fellow travelers, Kaolak, Shama, Shamin, so much. So in a way, it's also overwhelming for me, but so much gratitude to occupy this life with them, to think with them. So I'm grateful to you, the panel. I'm grateful to the team, to the gang that runs with me. Very, very grateful.
Thank you. Tumelo, thank you.
Yes, I just want to also thank you, Jay, for shepherding this discussion. It's been really amazing to hear the perspectives of the panelists, which has been really informative and insightful. And also the team who's been helping behind the scenes, Sharon and Chloe, who have been busy with the tech. And would like to say thank you all for attending tonight, and that we do have more coming up under the Mellon Arts Project. Next week, on October 12th, we have a Black Curators Matter conversation, which is taking place at MoMA. So for more information, please visit our website, and you'll get all the information, as well as information regarding Nora's videos. If you would like to look at them, please visit norachipaumire.com. You will be able to see more of the clips available there. Thank you again for everybody for attending. And it's been such a great pleasure and an honor to host you on this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you
So much.